This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We continue the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. Today, we begin a new day, Yom Chamishi. Today is the Yom Chamishi in Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. We're up to Ois Ayin Daled. Al Tarbe L'Smayach. Don't be too happy. Don't be too happy. You want to get into Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. You should be Marbin B'Simcha, but not too much. Uzachar Ki Ruach Hayach. Remember, your life is a Ruach, a spirit. Ata Noitzar Me'afar. You were created from dust. Va'achris Charima. And your end will be worms. Okay, so let's explain. The Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, in his commentary to Orchos Chaim of the Rosh, he quotes Gemara Brachas Lamed Amud Beis that Abaye was sitting before Rava and he saw that Rava was badach tuva, he was laughing a lot. So Abaye said, "V'gilu b'radak siv." So Rava said, "Don't worry, I'm not tefillin menachna. I'm wearing tefillin, and that testifies that Hashem's memshala is on me." So we see from here that, first of all, the Ikar Hakpada is not to be too happy. But a measured degree of Simcha is a Midah Tova. And the fact that the response was V'gilu Barada, that means a person does always have to be B'Simcha. It's just, it also has to be tempered and it can't be unbridled. Now, the Gemara Bracha says, Laman Aleph Amud Beis, you can't fill up your mouth in laughter in this world, like it says, and they said about Rish Lakish, he never was mamale piv schaik. In the Torah brings down that Rabbeinu Yonah says this was an Isser even bisman shabeis hamikdash kayam. Now the Rosh continues, remember ki ruach hayach, remember that your life is a ruach. What does that mean? In the Perush Makar Chaim of Rabbi Tzal Jolti, he says, remember, Rashi is commenting on a pasuk in Yeshaya, Chidlu lachem min ha'adam asher neshama bi'apoi ki b'ama nechshavu, that Rashi explains that a person's life is a neshama, that it can instantaneously leave. And by recognizing that one's life is extremely temporal, that today one could be here and tomorrow not, that will ensure, meaning the focus on the transience of life will ensure that one is not tarbe l'smayach. That's the hemshech. Al tarbe l'smayach. And a way to do that is zachar ki ruach hayecha. Remember that your life is temporal. Ata noitzar me'afar v'achrischa afar. And as we know in Pirkei Avos, it says, think about three things and you won't come to do an Avera, that you come from a Tipa Srucha and you're going to a Makam Afarima V'toileya. So in the Gemara in Nadarim, and this is all I'm quoting from Reb Goldberg's Perush, the Ber Mayim Chaim, the Gemara in Nadarim says, why be Miskaya if you're going to be Rima V'toileya? So not only are we learning that thinking about one's origin and end will make sure that one is not a Baal Gaiva, but this will also make sure that one is not Besimcha Yisera. Okay, let's go on to Ois Ayin Hey. Al Toimer Al Shum Mitzvah Esa Ois Alamachar. Do not say about any mitzvah, I will do it tomorrow. Shema Loi Tifna Lasos. You might not have a chance. Rav Goldberg in Ois Reish Daled says that this is a hemshech from what he said in the earlier Ois, and what we just read. In Ois Ayin Daled, the Rosh said that it's not enough to remember that one will die, but one has to be concerned that one's life is a ruach. Realize that a person's life could at any time end just like that. So recognizing that, you'll be reminded not to say about any mitzvah, oh, I'll do the mitzvah tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. Person doesn't know if they're going to make it to tomorrow. That's the hemshech between Ois Ayin Daled and Ois Ayin Hey. Now, in Pirkei Avos Parak Beis it says Al Toimar Kisha Efna Eshna. Shema Lo Tivana, don't say that when I have time I'm going to learn. You might not have time. So one always associates the idea not to push things off when it comes to Torah. So now the Rosh is sort of adding that this idea of Shema Lo Tipaneh should not only be used L'Gabe Talmud Torah, but it should be invoked and remembered in the context of other mitzvahs as well. Now, Rabbi Cheskel Sarna in his Iyunim on the Orchos Chaim and the Rosh says, what's the Rosh saying? Don't say about any mitzvah, I'll do it tomorrow. Even if tomorrow you could do the mitzvah better, you could do the mitzvah more mahadrin, don't push it off. Seemingly, zriza makdimim lemitzvahs trumps hider mitzvah. Now, it happens to be a very big machlokes. Is it better to do mitzvah bezrizus, or is it better to do a mitzvah later behider? It's machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi. Radvaz says do it right away. Chacham Tzvi says push it off. Now, the Trumas Hadeshen is quoted in our Chaim Siman Tav Chavav that if you see the new moon during the weekday, you're allowed to wait till Matzah Shabbos to be Mekayim the mitzvah when you're Mevusam and in Begadim Na'im. So from there it seems that it's better to do a mitzvah behider than to do it bezrizos. And the Stei Chemed asks on the Gemara Rosh Hashanah Lamed Beis Lamed Beis that you don't delay saying Hallel to Mekayim a mitzvah. You don't delay saying Hallel to Mekayim Hallel later on behidura b'roiv am hadras melech. So from there, the Stei Chemed says, we see zrizos is better than hider. Why is it that the Trumas Hadeshen says you could wait to do Kiddush Levana until Matzah Shabbos, that hider is better than zrizos? We know by Hallel, you do it right away and you don't wait for b'roiv am hadras melech. So Rav Goldberg tries to answer this question of the Stei Chemed. When I visited Rosh Hashiva, I remember he told this, he said this over, this lumdus, we heard it from him live. And he says as follows. Reb Baruch Ber says, the din of zriza makdimim lemitzvahs only applies by a mitzvah that has a specific zman. If there's no zman miyuchad, it's just you want to do it earlier, then there's no concept of zrizim, there's just an idea of shehuye mitzvah loy mashinan. The din of zrizim is when there's a specific time, like Hallel, to do it b'yoyim, or Mila, to do on the 8th day. So when there's a din of zrizim makdim l'mitzvahs, let's say by Hallel, because Hallel has a zman, so we say zrizim makdimim, and that trumps hider. But Mashain came, a mitzvah that doesn't have a zman miyuchad, like by Kiddush Levana, the only reason to be mezares is there's no zman today as opposed to tomorrow. So then the whole Indian is shehuye mitzvah loy mashinan. Then we say it's better to do the mitzvah behider than to do it bezrizas. When there's a zman to do the mitzvah, we say zrizim trumps hider. When there's no particular zman, then hider would trump zrizas. So by Kiddush Levana, there's no particular zman. You could wait, you could do it behider. By Hallel, where it's supposed to be done during the day, then there's a specific zman, then we say to do it earlier, zrizim makdimim lemitzvahs. Okay, Rabbi Say, have yourselves a wonderful evening. Bracha v'atzlacha, and kol tov. Be well.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.